Yeah, the screen is still messed up here.
What's it doing?
It's showing another picture. I don't know who that is on my screen. It must be Justin's picture, but
Yeah, I'll mute it if there's any noise in the background for me too, unless it
Wait,
has.
you're seeing Justin's picture?
yeah, right. Well, now I'm not. Now I'm just seeing you.
Okay, now you're seeing me?
Yeah, speak, Justin.
Say something, Justin.
Hello.
Yeah,
Nope.
now I see Justin.
I
Yeah.
see Justin too.
But does it go off of what's on Walter's screen now? Because he's the one recording it, right?
Well, I'm seeing you. The point is that what we need to do is see only text when somebody's speaking.
Oh yeah, right. We had it set up last time like that.
Well, no, it didn't work.
Oh.
So let's try. I mean, I've done the thing that they told me I needed to do. Speak again, Justin. Is it switching again?
I can only see you, but I mean, it doesn't show my face for me when I talk. So.
Yeah, I'm seeing you.
Yeah, and then when Paul spoke, I saw him. So.
Golly gee, what a pain in the butt.
Well, maybe you need to put the text and pin the text.
Okay, how about this? Speak again, Justin.
Okay. Right here.
Did it switch to Justin for you guys?
No.
It didn't. Okay.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, speak again, Justin.
Okay. I'm right here.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so maybe we've got it fixed now. Okay. So I'm going to share screen. Okay, so welcome everybody to part 4 of Tacitus Agricola, offered by myself, Walter Roberts, in Detroit Greek and Latin, and supported, subsidized by Justin DeHont. And we have our 2 guests besides Justin, are Paul Perot from Virginia, who's a high school teacher in Loudoun County, and he rides shotgun for me to make sure I don't do anything egregiously wrong. And then we have Larry. What's your last name again, Larry?
Rogers?
Larry Rogers. We have Larry Rogers, who's a lover of languages, especially pictorial languages, and enjoys especially to read interlinear Latin text. So we have all range from the reader of interlinear to a beginning intermediate to a high school teacher to myself, who of course have a PhD. So welcome to the part 4, and we'll begin by just sharing the screen. Okay, good. So let's just pick up right at 10, where we left off. I mean, not where we left off, but just at the beginning of 10 to make this a cleaner presentation. Okay? So we already did these first couple of sentences, but then we got bogged down in the third sentence. But so here we go. Britanniae situm populosque, multi scriptoribus memoratos, non in comparationem curvae ingeniique referam, sed quietum primum per domita est. Okay. So our subject is Tacitus himself, the narrator speaking. Okay, referam. I am reporting situm populosque Britanniae, the layout and peoples of Britain. Okay, a thing memoratos multi scriptoris, already recorded by many writers. I am reporting it non in comparationem, not to rival or to make a comparison with their care and literary art ingenii, sed quia primum per domita est, because Britanniae, for the first time now, has actually been completely conquered. So he's just saying that his report is going to be founded on the information accruing from Agricola's domination of the whole island. So, ita, quae priores non dum comperta, eloquentia percoluere, rerum fide tradenter. Okay. So, So, priores is our subject here. So, what things earlier writers, percoluere, massaged by their eloquence, things quae non dum comperta, which were not yet known or thoroughly found out, okay? Those things, so he could have given an AI, he could have put an AI here. Those things are to be reported fide rerum, in full truth to the actual facts, okay? So here's where we ran into trouble last week, and the problem was I hadn't really got down to dealing with this obtenditur. So obtenditur gets translated properly. It faces, okay. So you know it runs off opposite in that direction, okay. So it faces. Okay, so Britannia, insularum pros Romania notitia complectitur maxima. Okay, you know, Britain proper. Okay, of the islands which Romana notitia, Roman awareness, has most it has most oh wait. Wait, I'm trying to wonder, could Romana notitia be actually ablative? Let's see for a second here. Excuse me, guys. I always have these questions arise when I'm actually doing it.
I have it as I think, like the island which Roman notice has taken, or something, like that it's Britannia is the subject, but that it's that the notice of it was taken by the Roman notice.
Yeah, I think you're right. These are just nominatives. I was just having a brain cramp because I wanted, okay, maxima. So maxima has to be one of those adjectives just working as an adverb, predicate adjectives working as an adverb. So of the islands which Roman awareness has most completely embraced, okay, Fatio et Caelo in Orientem Germania, in Occidentem Hispania obtenditur. So, with regard to its upper air and its extended area on the ground and the sky above it, okay, obtenditur, it faces in the east Germania, in the west Hispaniae. And so these are data that's being triggered by the ob. It runs up against, okay? And to the south, also, in spicator, it looks upon the Gauls, okay? So again, the inspicator is triggering, the N is triggering the dative, okay?
Now, would that be sort of like it's visible to the Gauls from the south then, or how would you...
Yeah, that's what they're saying. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. Yes, I think that's exactly it, Justin. Okay? Inspicator is exactly that. It's visible to them. Okay? Invisible. Inspicator lies in sight of is what my the earlier commentary has. Lies in sight of, okay? So so on the south, it lies in sight to the Gauls, or for the Gauls. So this must just be a dative of reference, okay? And then septentrionalia eus, the northern parts of it, okay? Nullus contra terris, with no land whatsoever, opposite, pulsantur. The northern regions are, splashed by a vast vasto atque aperto mare, okay, by a vast and open sea, okay? Okay, formam totius Britanniae, livius veterum, fabricius rusticus recentiorum, eloquentissimi actores oblongae scutuli vel bipenni ad simulavere. Okay, so they these authors, they liken okay, Livius of the old writers and Fabius of the recent writers, the most eloquent authors. They liken the form of all of Britain, okay, and then the ad similare generates datives, to an oblong or rectangular shield, or bipenny, a head of an axe. Okay? So that's pretty straightforward.
I actually have a question. So formam is accusative, right?
Yes.
So would it be they liken the form to be like something? Because I'm not sure.
Liken the form, the shape of the whole island to be like an oblong shield.
Okay, and then those are datives, not ablatives, right?
Yeah, they're datives triggered by this odd.
Gotcha. Thank you.
He likes these prefixes that trigger the datives. He seems to be very partial to them. Okay? So that's something to just be aware of. So I'm just going to read that whole thing again for our viewers. Britanniae situm populosque, multi scriptoribus memoratos, non incomparationem curae ingeni ive referam, sed quietum primum perdomita est. Ita quae priores non dum comperta eloquentia percoluere, ea or rerum fide tradenter. Britannia insularum quas Romana notitia complectitur maxima, spatio ac caelo in orientem Germaniae, in occidentem Hispaniae obtenditur, Gallis in meridium etiam inspicitur. Septentrionalia eus, nullis contrateris, vasto aperto mari possantur, formam totius Britanniae, Livius veterum, Fabius rusticus recentium, eloquentissimi actores, oblongae scutuli vel bipenni ad simulavere. Okay? Now we get this tricky bit, and you'll see that I have this map of Ptolemy's actually map of Britain, so we can kind of see, and I've written some of the parts of the narrative in, so we'll be able to see exactly what he's talking, exactly what he has in mind, okay? And we'll be able to compare it with a modern view of Ireland, of Scotland, just to see what he had in mind, because it's hard for us to understand it, like I say, with our satellite pictures and stuff. So, et est ea facies citra Caledoniam. Okay, so and that is the shape or appearance, outside of Caledonia. So Caledonia, of course, is their name for Scotland. So if you're just taking this part, that accounts for the part outside, not including Caledonia. Okay? Unde, and therefore, from that fact, also in universum fama est. Okay, I guess he doesn't have the S, but from that fact, the report is, everyone says the same thing. In universum fama, the description is, universal. Okay, but now he's going to give his addition to this notion of Scotland, and then we have this choreographic, dative, But for someone who has crossed over, and we'll talk about this, what he's talking about crossing over from, okay? An immense and irregularly shaped space, and you have to say, okay, tenatur, extends itself as if in a wedge, okay? This huge and irregular shape, okay? And then here's the tricky phrase that that the commentators get a little, have something to say about. This procurrentium extremoiam litora terrarum. Okay, there's this huge space of land, of territory, of land running out forward from what is now the extreme shore, the furthest shore. Okay, so I'm taking the extremoiam litora to be this right here, this area right here, and we'll get to, and then immensum et enorme spatium velut in cuniam tenuatur. Okay, this immense and ill-formed region runs like a wedge. Okay, so he's imagining this as a wedge-shaped thing, and you can see it's longer here, definitely longer here, and it's pointed at the end. So you can imagine he would see this as a wedge, just kind of like not paying attention to this bay here. Okay? And then we'll begin the next sentence with hoc oram novissimi maris classis. So here we go. Hoc oram novissimi maris tunc primum Romana classis circum vecta insulam esse Britanniam ad firmavit. So of course, this insulam esse Britanniam is just your indirect discourse. Okay, so the Roman fleet having navigated around this shore of the most recently discovered sea, or actually of the furthest sea, then for the first time, ad firmavit affirmed that Britain was actually an island. Okay, so hoc oram novissimi maris tunc primum Romana classis circumventa insulam esse Britanniam ad firmavit. Okay, now this is cool because the hoc oram novissimi maris has to be this right here. Okay, so they had gotten up here, but they hadn't done all of this. Okay, so now watch what I'm going to show you now. So this is what we're actually talking about. The real, So they were pretty familiar with all of this. Okay, but you see that? Do you see that X I have here? Okay, yeah. That X is at the top of Wales, and this is the view that you get from that X. So it's kind of like looking across Lake Michigan or Lake Superior. You have no idea that there's any shore, so they could have thought that this was just the open sea before they actually sailed around it. You see? Mm-hmm. Okay. So, so from standing right here, they were looking out at the open sea here, and likewise, even from here, it looked like open sea, and they had no idea that this stuff was here. And even in their ancient maps, they saw it as jutting, straight out to the east. Oddly enough, okay. So I mean, we shouldn't take our compasses for granted. They were pretty confused, but you could see how standing here, you would think that you were just looking at the open sea, when as a matter of fact, you're looking like that. Has anyone ever been there to Wales and stuff?
Not I.
Paul, no, not you? Okay, neither have I. A little bit too rainy and cold for me to care to go to. But anyways, Hanc oram novissimi maris tunc primum Romana classis circumventa insulam esse Britanniam ad firmat, oximo, and at the same time, incognitas ad id tempus insulas. Insulas, islands unknown to that time, quas orcadas vocant, which they call the Orcadas, invenit et domuitque. They discovered and took control of. Okay, so here we have the top of Scotland, and here are the Orcadas. Okay, these islands up here. And then this thing, the furthest they got is the Shetland Islands up here. So he says, dispecta, seen from a distance, est et Thule. So Thule is one of these Shetland Islands, okay? But they only saw it from the distance. they only saw it from the distance because Hoctanus used them. They had only been ordered that far, and Hiems Petebat. Winter was approaching. Okay?
Walter, I have a question real quick. The et there for dispecta est et thula, is that et acting not like this typical and that you think of, but it's acting like they only spied Thula, like they only barely saw it?
Well, I think it also.
Mm-hmm.
And see the est. I mean, guys, yeah, I always get confused. Do we want this to be? Yeah. So yeah. So Thula also was spotted. Okay. Yeah. So I think it's just also, guys.
Okay. Yeah. So I thought, because I know that Thula was the verb, the passive, or with the passive dispecta est, but I was just trying to make it make sense in the English. So it's more like an also, like, and on top of that, we also saw this other island that nobody's ever gone to.
Right. Mm-hmm. And the Ogilvy and Richmond say that dispecta is emphatic because of its place and means, quote, was thoroughly viewed but no more. Was thoroughly viewed but nothing else. Okay? So God only knows what that meant, how far they went. They probably didn't go around it. Because you see, I mean, it's really quite far. I mean, we're almost at Norway. I mean, so it's, I mean, these maps are deceptive, but it's interesting to know the distances. I mean, that's still quite an accomplishment, and they must have been pretty freaked out. Okay? Good. And so now he starts talking about the sea. So let's see. Yeah, okay, let's just keep going. Okay. Said Mara, and now they're talking about these northern seas. Said Mara, pigram et rave remigantibus, perhibent. Okay, so perhibent is just they report or they say. And so here again we have indirect discourse. Mara, you can almost say essa, that the sea is sluggish and heavy, remigantibus, for people who are rowing, and ne quidem per inde, and not even per inde. I had to look this up. I hadn't seen it before. In like manner, likewise, in a corresponding manner, is it lifted by the winds. So they're imagining that these northern seas are thicker and heavier somehow. Okay, and that you don't get really high winds on it, or big waves and wind. So okay, which I'm sure is not true. But credo quod rariores terrae montesque causa ac materia tempestatum et profunda moles continui maris tardius impellitur. Okay, so the subject of impellitur has to be the wind, or wait, hold on. Yes, okay. No, I guess it has to be the sea. Mara, very good. So the sea is struck more lazily. Okay. Yes. Okay. I guess the object actually is profunda moles, the deep mass of the extensive sea. Okay, is less driven. Okay, but look how he piles on these subjects. Okay, I believe it's because rarioris terrae, that means the more spread out lands, and what he means is how the only land you have is like this stuff, these islands. So the spread out land and mountains, there aren't many mountains, and he considers causa ac materia tempesta. he considers mountains and stuff to be the cause and material, the cause and reason, the material cause of storms. Where was this note? Ogilvy write of causa et ac materia that the words are often paired, and he quotes Cicero de Finibus and Livy, and represent the efficient and material causes respectively. Okay, the efficient and material causes, and of Aristotle's distinction. Okay, the origin of winds was subject to much discussion. Seneca ascribed whirlwinds to the resistance offered by high ground to the natural course of the wind, which would otherwise expend itself. Okay, so that's why he's saying that you don't have any mountains to, I guess, buffet the wind into disturbance, which he's calling the cause and material of winds. So it's a pretty interesting natural historical standpoint. Okay.
I have a question with the impellitur being paired with profunda moles, because I had trouble with this. I figured that they were the object, but impellitur being singular, I was just wondering how these all paired together.
Yeah, see, moles is singular.
It is singular.
Yeah.
Okay.
Moles. It's weird. It's feminine profunda.
Oh, okay, that's
okay.
right. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a weird one. It's a weird one, Justin. I have to look it up all the time because I always want it to be like plural third or something,
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll update that. Thanks.
Okay. And then, okay, now he just like gives himself an out. Naturam oceani atque aestus neque quaerere huius opera est. Okay, so to ask about the nature of the ocean and aestus, this has to be aestus. Well, God, why am I blinking, guys? Help me out. Someone aestus.
Tide. It's tide.
What'd you say, Paul?
It's tide.
Oh, yes. Very good. Thank you. I was just blanking. Okay, the nature of ocean and tide, it is neither of these to seek. Is it of this work? Is it is it the purpose of this work? Because this isn't the work of natural history, so I'm just going to let that go. Ac multi retulere, and many people have already reported it. Okay. And then he says one thing I'm going to add, unum adederem. One thing I might add, and this is that nice little, I guess, perfect subjunctive of, oh, one might say this. One thing I might add, okay, that nowhere more in a wider way is the sea dominant, dominare. Has to be deponent here. Okay? Multum fluminum hunc atque illuc ferere. Okay? So it carries here and there much, and then fluminum is genitive plural. Much of surging tides of flowing waters, it carries hither and thither. Okay? Nor merely tennis littora, as far as the shore, does it ad crestere out resorbere, does it either, flow out or come back, but in fluere, it flows deeply inland and, penetrates all around. Et iugis etiam ac montibus inserere velut in suer. And so it inserts itself even into or around hills and mountains as if velut in suer, as if that were its home, as if that were the home of the floods of the surging tide waters itself. So we've all seen pictures of the fjords and stuff like that. So I guess that's what he's talking about, how incredible these tides are. But of course there are no real tides on the Mediterranean. So this would have all been very, very new to them. Okay? You know, Caesar reports it when he's talking about invading Gaul, and he's up in those northern areas. Okay? So, unum adederam, nusquam latius dominare mare, multum flumina hunc at iluc, and that's in this direction and in another direction, are carried, nec litore tennis ad crescere alt re sorberi, so they don't increase their extent or come back only as far as the shore, but influere penitus atque ambire, they flow in deeply, inshore very far, quite deeply, and they go all around at Eugis etiam ac montibus insere velut in suo, and they insert themselves also around hills and mountains as if, you know, this was their natural place to be.
Yeah, and it's sort of funny because he says he's going to relate one thing, and then he has all these infinitives, and he's relating several things. Like it's
but you know, pretty amazing natural phenomenon, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Coming from the Mediterranean, so it's worth mentioning.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to go into the huge thing, but this is the one thing that is worth mentioning.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So you know, it's probably I mean, you know, needless to say, this is a rhetorical. Oh, you know, I don't really need to touch on this person's character. But I will mention one thing. You know, we do have him on video kicking his dog that day. Okay, so, you know, it's kind of a rhetorical thing where you say you're not going to do something, but then you do lay out one little thing. Okay.
Yeah, that aditerum is a let me add one thing. What do you think?
Okay, let's let that pass. But I thought that usually lat is usually only in the present subjunctive, but we'll just let ride and keep on going.
Yeah. So how are you taking it?
I'm taking it as like more. I might add, not as what do you call it, lat hortatory, but as, you know, I might add one thing. One might say dixerum. You know, one might say, I might say. It's usually used with verbs of speaking, and I'll look it up. I'll look it up very quickly. It's hold on, just give me 1 second. Okay, I'm not seeing it immediately in the index to Gildersleeve, but I'll look around and see it later. But it's a very specific usage of the as I'm trying to remember it, of the perfect subjunctive with verbs of speaking. You know, one might say, I might say this. You know, one thing I might add. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I'll look it up, and I'll look up the reference and then give it to you guys next week. Okay. Moving to section 11. Ceterum Britanniam qui mortales initio coluerunt, indigni an avecti, ut inter barbaros parum compertum. Okay? So this has to be indirect question. Okay? Which mortals inhabited it, Gaul from the beginning? So Ceterum, but what mortals inhabited Britanniam initio from the beginning, and whether they were indigenous or whether they, you know, were immigrants, advecti, whether they came over, ut inter barbaros, as you would expect among barbaric peoples, parum comparatum. It is little known. Okay? Parum comparatum est. Okay? So, parum comparatum introduces this indirect question. It's little known what mortals inhabited Britain at the beginning. Okay?
Yeah, and you could say that we hardly know. It's an impersonal.
Yes, exactly.
Comparatum.
Exactly. You know, comparatum est, you know, parum comparatum est, you know, nobis. Exactly. Okay? Habitus corpora mori atque ex eo argumenta. Okay? The appearance of their bodies, and then habitus has to be plural, are varied. Okay? And from that fact, there is disagreement or debate, argumenta. Habitus corpora mori atque ex eo argumenta.
Right. That's so one thing with the argumenta. I was wondering if it should be like that there are conclusions because of the variety, or there are arguments. It's hard for me to see what he meant by argumenta because it seems like it could have like a double meaning or ambiguous meaning if we just translate it out. Its many meanings.
Yeah, I think he's just saying that if they all look the same, like they probably do it in Norway, they were a homogeneous people.
Mm-hmm.
But because their bodies and appearances are different, that's where you get the disputes. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to just look up argumentum because I didn't even bother. Argumentum, they're saying evidence. Or
right. Yeah, because I had like
arguments.
Yeah.
A proof. Okay. Yeah, so I guess we can just do arguments. There are disagreements. There are different people arguing different things. Okay, argumenta. Okay. Now this gets really cool. Okay. So Caledonia, of course, is Scotland. Okay. Namque rutili Caledoniam habitantium comi. Okay. So the hair of those inhabiting Caledonium is red, or reddish colored. Okay? And Magni Artus and the huge limbs Asewerat, testify to a Germanic origin. So these two things he's seeing as German, both the red hair and the huge limbs. Okay? And so he's imagining, because remember our map earlier? This map right here? Okay, I mean Germany's right here in their mind. Germany's right off to the east. And this thing's already pointing east. So that's why he can think that the Germans just jumped off into Scotland. Okay? Okay. And then the Sulurum, okay, the colored, the dark colored faces of the Sulurum, okay, and look where these guys are. These guys are down here, you see down here at the bottom of Wales? The Silures. Can everybody see that? Okay. So he's imagining them as jumping off from Spain, which he imagines is right down here. So, Silurum colorati vultus, torti plerumque crines et posita contra Hispania, Iberos reteres trae quisa, easque sedes occupasse fidem facient. So here we have another indirect discourse. So we have these nouns that fidem facient, that make it believable, and then we have indirect discourse. Trayekisa ake okupasa. So the dark colored faces and the twisted hair, generally speaking, and the fact that they're positioned, that Hispania, Spain, is positioned over against it, okay? These three things, the positioning of Spain, the hair and the faces, okay, fidem faciant, they make believable that Spaniards, old Spaniards, came across and occupase and occupied those places, okay? And so it's talking about these guys right here who apparently were as hard for the Romans to subjugate as some of the Spanish tribes in that, Spanish tribes in that northwest quadrant of Spain. Okay. 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 Proximi. Now this proximi here is substantive. Okay. So the people who are close to the Gauls, are also similar. Okay. And that means, and similar to the Gauls. Proximi Gallis et simile sunt. Okay? Siu durante originis vi, siu procurrentibus in diversa terris, positio caeli corporibus habitum dated. So this is a little, we need to just break this up and see how it's working. Okay. So you have the siu, okay, siu, giving the two alternatives, okay. Whether by the force, by the power of origins being durable, or, okay, so either they came across, so it's just their common DNA, or, okay, the position of the sky, okay, generally the climate, gives habitum corporibus, gives an appearance to the bodies, okay, gives dated corporibus habitum, procurrentibus in diversa terris. Okay, hold on, I have to check something. I gotta check that corporibus.
Would it be like a dative, like it gives the feature to the bodies?
Yeah, that has to be that. Hold on for 1 second. Just give me a second to find. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It gives that appearance to the bodies. Okay. And the position of the sky gives that appearance to the bodies, and this has to be a double dative, to those. Oh, wait, what am I doing with the procurrentibus in diversa terris? Okay, you know, lands that are running off into diverse directions. Okay, so to lands running off in separate directions, the position of the sky gives to the bodies of the inhabitants the same appearance. It has to be something like that. Okay? Okay. And then, so he just ends up, in universum, all in all, nevertheless, aestimanti, to persons who are making a guess, it is credibile est, it is believable that the Gauls occupase vicinam insulam, that the Gauls occupied the neighboring island. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. But you just have to get this dative of to whom, to person, you know, it's a participle, to one who is making a guess, who's one who's trying to figure it out. Okay?
Yeah, that's a little curious because Caesar, in his explanation of the Druids, says that the art of the Druids originates in Britain, and if you really want to find out more about that, you need to go to Britain to find out. And then here he's saying something a little bit different, that the origin of the Britons is actually the Gauls.
Right. So, so Caesar's imagining the culture is moving westward, and Tacitus is imagining the immigration or has moving eastward, right?
Yeah, eastward or
well, I mean, from Gaul to Britain.
Yeah, exactly.
The movement of peoples, whereas Caesar's seeing the movement of religious tradition coming from Britain to Gaul.
Yep.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Okay, so now here we go. I put this, and that's exactly what he's going to say next. Okay, I added this in Britannies because it makes it clearer. Because you've got to know that this aorum refers to the Gauls. Okay, so the religious habits of those people, the Gauls, and so this is exactly your point, Paul. Deprehendas, you would see, see, and then I added in Britannies, among the Britons. Okay, and the persuasiones, the convictions of their superstitions, of their religious beliefs.
Yeah, deprehendas, you would grasp.
Right. Okay. If you were to look closely, you would. So it's just makes perfect sense as a subjunctive. Okay. And sermo haud multum diversus. The way of speaking is not very different. Okay. And then this should remind you of Caesar too, Paul. In desposcindis periculis eadem audacia et ubi advenere in de tractandis eadem formido.
Yep.
So they have the same boldness in calling forth danger. Bring it on, bring it on, bring it on, mofo. Okay? But when it comes, when dangers actually arrive, they have the same fear in, de trahendis, in removing the dangers, in getting out of harm's way. So this is, and so this is cool. I love this little thing, okay? Plus tamen ferocii Britanni praeferunt, okay? Nevertheless, the Britons, the British, are praeferunt. They are head of the pack when it comes to, fierceness. Okay. Okay. Ut quos numdum longa pax emoluerit, as persons whom a long peace has not yet softened. Okay. Nam gallos quoque imbellis floruisse accepimus, for we also accept the fact, or have heard, that the Gauls also, floruisse, perfect infinitive, so long ago they were also good in battle too. We've heard that, but soon thereafter, segnitia, their laziness and otio. Oh, segnitia cum otio intravit. Okay? And then he gives you this nice little ablatives. Amissa virtute pari ter ac libertate. And at the same time they lost their manliness, to equal extent they lost their liberty. Okay?
And it's sort of a nice foil to Agricola being so moderate with the barbarian who can't handle civilization. Like they take it too far and they become too civilized and they don't know how to have proper amount of otium. They always overdo everything.
Yeah, it's just that general theme of the Romans romanticizing these people they imagine as being hard and wanting to explain their own moral failings as function of the coming of luxury. So it's pretty standard stuff. I'm sure there's a lot of nuances if you look more closely, but you see these kind of moral chords get played again and again throughout these writers. And I'm looking forward, after we finish this, maybe next fall we'll read the Germanii before we start on, well, unless someone else wants to sponsor something else, but I would like to read quite a bit of Tacitus. I'm enjoying this quite a bit. Okay, quod Britannorum olim victis evenit, ceteri manet quales Galli fuerunt. Okay, which thing has happened to the defeated persons of Britain? Okay, and olim is just at that time during Agricola's during Agricola's campaigns, or during during the Roman subjugation in general.
Mm-hmm.
It happened ultimately to the defeated groups of the British. Okay, but, and again, he always has incenditon, this ascendaton, lack of a connective when he wants to do a but the rest of them remain as quales Galli fuerunt, as the Gauls once were.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So let me just back up and just for our people, read this whole thing again through just so everyone has a smooth experience of it. Okay, Ceterem Britanniam qui mortales initio coluerent, indigenae an advecti, ut inter barbaros parum compertum. Habitus corporum varii atque ex eo argumenta. Namque utilae Caledoniam habitantium comae, magni artus, Germanicam originem adsererant. Celurum colorati votus, torti plerumque quines, et posita contra Hispania, Tiberos veteres traiecisse easque sedes occupasse fidem faciunt. Proximi Gallis et similes sunt, seu durante originis vi, seu procurrentibus in diversa terris, posito caeli, corporibus habitum dedit. In universum tamen aestimanti, Gallos vicinam insulam occupasse credibile est. Eorum sacra deprehendas ac superstitionum persuasiones. Sermo haud multum diversus, in de poscendis periculis eadem audacia et ubi advenere, in de tractandis eadem formido. Plus tamen ferociae Britanni praeferunt, ut quos nundam longa pax emolueret. Nam Gallos quoque in bellis floruisse accepimus, mox signitia cum otio intravit, amisa virtute pariter ac libertate. Quod Britannorum olim victis evenit, ceteri manet quales Galli fuerunt. Okay? Okay, good. So, we're doing really good, guys. Okay, we're making really good time. Okay, so let's start with section 12. Impedita rubor. Okay, rubor just means their strength, their manly strength is in their cavalry. I mean, in their foot soldiers. Impedita rubor. Okay. Quaedam nationes et cruru proeliantur. But certain peoples of the Britons also proeliantur cruru, make war by means of the chariot. Okay? Honestior auriga, the charioteer is a more honorable combatant, and clientes pro pugnat, and they fight on behalf of their clients. Okay? It's the other way around, I forget. Client, patron. Yes. So the clients fight on their behalf. Okay.
Does pro pugnat sort of have like a defensive quality to it with the pro instead of just the pugnat?
I think the pro has a sense of on their behalf fight. It's this whole client. It's the whole pseudo. The Middle Ages where the vassals would be fighting for their lords.
Right. So it's like it's not just that the clients fight on foot, but they fight on behalf of the guy in the chariot.
Yeah, probably. I'm not sure. I hadn't thought about what the military details were in that distinction. But that's a very good question. I want to just look really quickly to see if okay, now I'm going to read what this says here, just because you were interested, Justin. This is from Ogilvy. Okay, the general use of propugnator, of one fighting from a place of vantage, as a ship or wall, etc., seems to show that here the driver is opposed to those who fight from the chariot, and that the meaning is that, contrary to the rule in Homer and among the Greeks, the driver is the higher and the fighters the lower in rank.
Oh, so the charioteer is the one steering.
Well, it seems to show that the driver is the higher and the fighter of the lower rank. So you remember, if you think about Book 6 of the Iliad, and Diomedes has his charioteer who drives the chariot and comes and picks him up after he's wounded and stuff. Well, that guy's clearly, not the servant, but he's the assistant. He's the subordinate of Diomedes. Whereas here they're saying that the charioteer, the auriga, was actually the higher up guy. So the thing continues. There was probably only one propugnator chosen by the auriga from among his clients. So in Caesar's time, the British chariot carried a driver and one warrior, like the Gallic chariot. Okay, Caesar describes the chariots as carrying the fighters among the troops of cavalry, their own apparently, and then, while they alight and fight, taking position in the rear to rescue them if pressed. The minor role played by chariots in Agricola's campaigns is to be explained by the fact that Agricola was fighting against tribes with whom Caesar had not come into contact and whose terrain did not lend itself to such a mode of fighting. Clientes is used as in the case of a Gaulish or German chief, and presumably the same system obtained among the Britons. So clientes must be object here, okay? The charioteer is the superior one, and okay, I'm still confused by clientes propugnant. I'm really not seeing what's going on here. And the clients fight on their behalf. That must be it. And the clients fight on their behalf.
Propugnare means is really more to fight defensively.
Yeah. Okay.
So
yeah, you're right.
I wonder if Auriga Honesti or Auriga understands proliatur, that the charioteer more honorable does battle, whereas the clients are not going into the battlefield.
Well, I'm wondering, because what are you then making up? Well, see, this is the thing. It's so dense. Because we have this opening statement that it's the foot soldiers that are the real meat of the army, okay? But that certain nations fight with the chariots, but as that note said, those aren't going to be really the nations that Agricola is fighting. But the chariot ones are more. The charioteer is the more honorable ones. And then the clientes propugnat, and the clients fight on his behalf to protect him. Maybe that's it. maybe I'm really not sure. Maybe someone can look up to see if there's been a paper written about this. Okay, let's keep going. Olim, okay, back in the day, regibus parebant, they used to obey kings, but nunc per principes factionibus et studiis frahunter. But now they are dragged by the petty princes into, individual parties and factional disputes. Okay? So somehow their social structure, political structure is broken down from obeying a king or kings to these petty princes who are kind of decentralized military effort. Okay? Nec aliud adversus validissimos gentes pro nobis utilius quam quod in commune non consulum. Okay, now this is pretty straightforward. Okay? So, nor is anything, so nothing is more useful, utilius, okay, pro nobis, on our behalf, adversus, against very strong peoples, than the fact that, quod, in commune non consulant, that they don't work together. They don't take plans in common. Okay? So, nec aliud adversus validissimos gentes pro nobis utilius, quam, quod in commune non consulant. Okay? Rarus duabus tribusve civitatibus ad posandum commune periculum conventus. So, rarus modifies conventus. So, rarely is there a coming together strategically to 2 or even 3 separate political communities for the purpose of repelling a common danger. Okay? And then here we get one of these wonderful quips. Ita singuli pugnat universi vicuntur. Therefore, they fight individually and are beaten as a whole. Okay? Okay? And so now he switches to the weather. So I'm just going to read this little part about the military people to give it a flow. In pedite rubor, quaedam nationes et cruru proliantur, honestior alriga clientes propugnant, olim regibus parebant, nunc per principes factionibus et studiis trauntur. Nec aliud adversus validissimos gentes pro nobis utilius, quam quod in commune non consulunt. Rarus tuabus tribusve civitatibus ad proposandum commune periculum conventus, ita singuli pugnat universi vicuntur. Okay. Now he goes to talk about the weather. Okay. Chylum, now I guess no one goes to that part of the country and doesn't come back talking about the weather. Chylum, cabris imbribus ac nebulis foedum. So, the sky is foul with frequent rains and clouds. Okay, now you gotta think, these are Romans talking here, okay? Asperitas frigorum abes. But, it doesn't get bitter cold. There's an absence of bitterness of cold. Okay? The good old Gulf Stream. Okay? Dierum spatia ultra nostri orbis mensuram. Okay? So, the length of the days, okay? The length of the days is beyond the measure, their length in nostri, or of the length of our part of the world. Okay? Nox clara et extrema Britanniae parte brevis. Okay, so the night is clear and short, extrema Britannia parte, in the furthest part of Britain. Okay, ut, so much so that exiguo discrimine, by a very small measure of difference, would you internoscos, would you be able to tell the difference between finem atque initiam lucis, the beginning and the end of the day? Okay, so he must be just talking about the long summer days. Okay, quod, see, but if, quote C is always but if clouds do not non officiant, don't get in the way, okay, it is possible to see the shining of the sun all through the night, okay? For they affirm that it neither sets nor rises ex urgere, but simply goes across. Okay? I had the lucky to spend the summer up in Alaska, and you saw that, I remember one night I stayed up drinking with some guys till like about 2 in the morning, and then like, an hour and a half later, the sun was coming up again. So it really is quite amazing at these northern regions. Okay? And then he gives this little scilicet, extrema et plana terrarum humili umbra non erigant tenebras. Okay, I didn't quite figure out what I was going to do with humili umbra. It has to be, I'm taking ablative. Okay, so the furthest reaching and plana, flat regions of the earth do not stimulate darkness. Humili umbra, what do you guys think?
They do not throw out darkness by their lowly shadow. Like their lowly shadow doesn't throw darkness. As in, like, I do have ablative, yeah, like by means of a lowly shadow, it throws little darkness.
Okay, I'll take that. It shows it creates a a low level darkness. Okay, and night falls between the sky and the stars. I'm really not sure what's going on here. I mean, I should have looked at that. I should have looked at that a little more closely. Let's see if they help us out here. Solus fulgorum is the glow. Okay, we kind of knew that. Okay, so here's what they say. In fact, the flat extremities of the earth, with their low shadow. Okay, so exactly what you were saying, Justin. Do not project the darkness, and night falls below the level of the sky and stars. But that's still kind of weird. Infraque caelum et cedera nox cadet.
It's like the sky doesn't get dark because the shadow doesn't reach high enough to touch the sky, sort of.
Yeah, I forgot, guys, that the ancients, and I don't know how universal this is, but they thought that darkness was a physical substance that crept in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I forgot about that. So that makes perfect sense. Okay? So it doesn't completely envelop the sky. Okay? And this erigant tenebras is, the bringing forth of darkness. Okay? Okay, good. And then, so now he goes to the produce. And so the solum has a short O, so it's not solum only, it's the ground, okay? So the ground, and then you have to go all the way to patiens to get your predicate, is, it puts up with fruit, with grains, it supports grains, and it's good for livestock. And you got your sheep, okay? But watch what he says. Praeter, and he likes to do this type of thing. Praeter oleam vitemque et cetera sueta Calidioribus terris oriri. Okay, beyond the olive and the vine, and the rest of the fruits that sueta are accustomed to appear to grow in warmer regions. So outside of all that, you're not going to have vines, you're not going to have olives, and you're not going to have the things that are accustomed to grow in warmer regions. But beyond that, patiens frugum, it does support some grains. Maybe it's talking about potatoes, who knows? And is good for cattle.
I have a question with frugum. I had trouble with that because I wanted it to be accusative just because of the ending, but I think isn't that the genitive ending?
Oh, it's genitive. Yes, genitive.
Right.
But patiens takes the genitive.
Okay, so it was just a genitive object.
Right. It allows, it's tolerant of grains.
Okay, that made it easier. Okay, thank you.
And pecundum is genitive as well. Pecundum. Wait, does that make sense, guys? Yeah, because patiens is a adjective of one termination. Mm-hmm. So it's neuter, and then two genitives. Okay? And
what kind of genitives are those?
Oh, I think they're just genitives of like definition, or content,
Is objective genitive just sort of too simple of a
objective genitive is like
yeah.
I'd say it's like genitive of material or something. I mean, I'm not sure. No, I think objective will work because if fecundum were a verbal idea, it would be producing livestock, and if patiens were a verbal idea, it would be producing grain. Mm-hmm. Well, I think you probably can do objective genitive, but like I said, someone needs to look in their grammar. I don't spend as much time as I should looking at the case usages in Latin.
One thing too, my version does not have fecundum in there. It just has frugum fecundum.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the two-tone version.
Oh, it doesn't even have the que?
Yeah, they added the que in parentheses, but there's no fecundum. They have it in the footnotes, about the different manuscripts. Right. So it says like some of them have that, but this one does not.
Yeah, see, fundum que fecundum was a suggesting guy. This guy named Leutze, Leuze. So, okay. Yeah. Okay, so tarde mid tescunt, quito provenient. Okay, so they grow ripe slowly, but they quickly burst forth. They quickly sprout. Okay, up in Alaska, you have this really short growing season, but you get these huge asparagus, not asparagus, but cauliflowers. You get these gigantic produce that's just learned that they have such a small window to grow that over time it just really becomes really big. So that's what he's saying here. It quickly comes forward, but it's slow to ripen, I think. Okay? And then he says, causa, okay, eadem que utrius rei causa. Okay, eadem is feminine singular agreeing with causa. So you have the same reason for both of these phenomenon, for both things, and that is that there's much water, much humidity in the air and in the ground. Okay? Okay, so imagine the humidity just really helps these things to get going once they do get going. Okay? Okay, Fert Britannia, aurum et argentum et alia metalla, pretium victoriae. Okay, so Britain produces gold and silver and other metals, alia metalla, pretium victoriae. Okay? The rewards of victory. Okay? Ginget et oceanus mar.
Yeah, does that pretium victoriae, can that mean worth the price of victory? Do you think?
No, I took it to be a reward, but
Yeah, I thought it was like one of his like almost what do they call it? Like sort of like not unnecessary appositions, but like he likes to add an apposition. So like
yeah, I mean, yeah, it is one of those appositions. I mean, Ogilvy's saying that pretium equals premium. Okay,
Okay.
so that's supporting my idea of reward. At least that's what Ogilvy and is saying. Okay, so the
Yeah. Well, I'm
ocean.
just wondering if it's idiomatic. You have the idiom "pretium operae" is worth the effort, and so I'm wondering if "pretium victoriae" means um, worth the trouble of winning over.
Okay, let me read what he says. What the full note says for pretium victoriae. We're making good time, and we have good time. Okay. He says these words should not be pressed to mean that Britain was invaded for the sake of these medals. When Rome conquered a country, the land became public property of the Roman state. When the new province was formally organized, the ownership of the land was restored to the local communities and inhabitants, but Rome could reserve for herself specific areas such as mineral deposits. These were either leased to contractors or worked by the state itself, usually as extraterritorial domains under the management of a procurator. Okay, and then he cites this work by Davies, Roman mines in Europe. Okay, both systems are known from Britain. Private leases can be inferred from Derbyshire, and that's a inscription, whereas elsewhere in Mendex, another inscription, and in Northumberland, direct military control is proved by inscription. The tendency was increasingly for the profitable mines to be worked by the state with forced labor, while the poorer ones were leased. In either case, revenue accrued to the state. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that this is "pretium victoriae" is similar to "pretium operae," to be worth the effort, and so here to be worth bothering about to win over.
Yeah, I agree. I agree totally with that. It's not. I wasn't thinking of pretium operae, but I'm glad you mentioned that. I think that's exactly it. I think that works just as well. It's not like, they were invading Saudi Arabia before they found oil. Okay. Ginget et Oceanus Margarita. Okay, so, freshly iced frozen margaritas rise up from the ocean.
if only.
So, no, I mean, pearls rise up from the ocean, but they are dark and cloudy. Flusca eloquentia.
Like brownish and discolored.
Very good. Okay. Okay. Quidam artem ab esse legentibus arbitranter. Okay, certain people think that the skill in getting them is lacking to the people who would be getting them, who would be trying to collect them. Mm-hmm. Okay. Nam in rubra mari riva speranti saxis aweli in Britannia prut expulsa sent collegi. Okay, I'm trying to remember what I did with this. For in the dark sea, viva esperantia saxis aweli. So are we taking viva esperantia to be are all of these ablatives?
No, those are
Add accusative.
accusative. Yeah.
Okay, so for living things and spiral things to be plucked, so we have to be talking about clams, right?
Living and breathing, right?
Oh, Oh, to be pulled from rocks. In Britannia, Prut expulsa sunt collegi. Oh, I'm sorry, guys, to let you down. I didn't figure out what this meant.
Well, this refers to the people harvesting the
Right.
the clams, and that in the Red Sea they are actually pulled from the rocks, but in Britain they are simply picked up off the.
Yeah, it says expulsa cast on shore. Okay, insofar as they are cast on shore, they are collected.
So that they don't have. There's really no skill.
Right. Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Or in the Red Sea. Oh, okay, good. I was saying rubro mari, and I wasn't understanding what that is. Okay. Okay. They are pulled from the rocks, but in Britain, they are collected as they are thrown up on the sea. Insofar as they are thrown up on the sea.
So with the Wiwa and Esperanto, would that be the living and breathing like pearls, or the living and breathing clams? I guess it's sort of a weird distinction. But.
Oh, it has to be the clams, because don't you have to break them open to get the pearls?
Right, and those are, but they're pulled from stones. The stones are the outlets, right?
Yeah, because aren't they usually clinging to the side of stones? And then you have to pull them off. I mean, I don't know anything about this.
And the margarita here is used as a synecdoche or a metonymy for the clam itself.
The clam, exactly. Okay, because you do have to bust open the clam to get to the pearl. Okay, now I like this little bit. This is great. He's back on this hobby horse. Ego facilius crediderum natura margaritis de esse quam nobis aberritio. I myself would more easily believe that the quality of the pearls is lacking than that to us would be lacking greed. So if they were any good, we would go get them. But so I'm just going to buy that they can't be very good because we're not busting our butts to get them. Okay? So that's pretty funny. Okay. Okay, I'm saying that we have 8 more minutes. I'm just trying to think. Let's not push it because we always end up in the middle of a section, despite my best intentions. So let's just end up here, guys, and pick it up next week. And I think it will go even quicker because this geographic stuff was a little bit difficult and tricky just to figure out. But once we get into the narrative, I think we will be able to pick up. But I'm planning to go for 10 weeks, anyways, guys, instead of the original 8. And we're only week 4, so we should be good. Okay.
All right.
So thanks for joining us, and hopefully we'll look at this thing and see that the screen is not flirting back and forth, and we finally have the product that we want. Thanks for your patience, and see you guys next week.
Okay.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.